Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Sirois. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Sirois. Prepare to ignite.
Hi, I'm George Sirois, and welcome to this very special episode of Excelsior Journeys. On February 13th, 2019, my high school drama teacher, Mr. Mac Damron, passed away. He is somebody who had been with Godwin High School for a few decades and had touched the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of students. He was somebody very, very important to me. He's somebody that I had listed in my acknowledgments as one of the 4 teachers that really helped to shape me to become the person that I am. The other 3 being Michael Mizaki, my 6th grade teacher, Paige Witten, my 12th grade English teacher, and Nancy Mahar, who was my preschool teacher, who actually was the first one to really kind of, reach out to my parents and just say, like, hey, this kid's talented. So I decided that I wanted to put together like a tribute episode of Excelsior Journeys. And I invited some of my fellow students to join me on this episode. So you'll be hearing from Elizabeth Meggs, who is returning after being on the show a couple of weeks ago. You'll hear from Kelly Wright Myers, who is a photographer and a damn good one. And you'll also hear from Sruli Broocker, who has gone on to become a musician and an animator. And so everyone here really deserves to be on their own Excelsior Journeys episode. Just having them together was real magic. So you'll be hearing some overlapping, some interrupting, and everything. So just please bear with us. I wanted to keep this as raw as humanly possible. So by all means, I really hope you all enjoy this episode. If there is enough demand for a future episode where more stories about Mr. Damron can be told, if you are a Godwin student, please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. And those of you who are listening right now, I hope you're all liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing, share whatever episode really, strikes you the most. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at George H. Sirois, Sirois, @gmail.com. And with that, on with the show.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone.
Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Sirois. Thank you so much for being here. And if you are in the St. Louis area, please be sure to stop by Clayton Studios at off of Big Bend Boulevard. I will be speaking there on Wednesday, February 27th. If you're in the area and if you're listening to this show on the day that this has gone live, then I'll be there the very next day talking about podcasting from A to Z. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you and getting to know all of you and getting to hear about your own podcasting journey. Now, you always wind up experiencing different people that are there specifically to kind of guide you onto where you are going to be in life. And I am very fortunate. I consider myself blessed to have had Mr. Mac Damron as one of those people in my life. And I am happy to say that I am one of hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who can say the same thing. Mr. Damron, who I will always just refer to as Mr. Damron, was my drama teacher at Mills E. Godwin High School in Richmond, Virginia. I took art in 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade, my first 3 years in Richmond. And then for my last 3 years in Richmond, I decided to shift over to drama. And I enjoyed it so much that that it actually kind of kickstarted my love for it. It got me back into drama. I was a drama kid growing up, and it led me to audition for and get into the theater department at Marymount Manhattan College, which is where I, rediscovered my love of writing. And that's what really kind of got me along the path that I am right now. That would not have happened if I had not gone through drama 1, 2, and 3. And if Mr. Damron did not have the sort of faith in me that he did. And on February 13th, 2019, on my mother's birthday, no less, we lost Mr. Damron. And he had been in failing health for quite a while. But thankfully, he knew that the theater that he called home for decades over at the high school was going to be renamed in his honor. The fact that he knew that that was already happening is a real blessing, because he needed to know, if he didn't know, then I honestly don't know what else could have been said or could have been done to let him know just how much he meant to so many people. And as we remember Mr. Damron, and if you are in the Richmond, Virginia area, be sure to get over to Godwin High School on Saturday, March 23rd, so you can be there for his theater dedication. I'm not sure if I can be there, but I really hope we pack the place, because he deserves that. He deserves every single seat in that place taken. And with me, for this very special episode of Excelsior Journeys, I have a handful of students that went through drama 1, 2, and 3 with me, and have gone on to take everything that he had learned, that he had taught us, and set out on our own journeys. I have Sruli Broocker. Sruli, if you can say hello.
Hey, thank you, George, for doing this.
No, thank you so much for being here, man. I have Kelly Wright Myers. Kelly.
Hello. I'm so excited to be part of this.
And I'm so glad you're here too. And my first returning guest at Excelsior Journeys.
And sad circumstances.
Yes. Obviously, we wish it could be more so. But how perfect was it that the episode that we recorded, that you and I recorded together, artist Elizabeth Meggs, how perfect was it that basically wound up being the last episode that he would hear? And to which I really hope he did. So,
he knew about your tribute to it based on your online post. I think, thank you, George, for doing this. It's wonderful to say hi to Kelly and Sruli and you. And we love Mr. Damron so much. And this is a wonderful tribute to him.
Yeah, and there are going to be possibly a couple more people that are going to be joining in throughout this episode. So basically what I'm going to start off with, basically with my own experience, really kind of getting to know Mr. Damron. So this was the time that I, got to say 1, 2, how do you do to him, and drama 1. And during this time, I honestly had no idea what to expect. And I was greeted, I would say, it was made known to me just how much of an interesting character Mr. Damron was, because whenever the place would get unruly, which was often, Yeah, he knew how to silence the room, and that was, that was a good old fashioned yo right to, that reached the rafters that weren't there in the classroom, but somehow found a way there. And it was really interesting just kind of getting to know him, because very quickly he became someone that you didn't want to disappoint. You knew
and
that,
he was a great actor himself. Like, he had all kinds of acting experience. So when he decided to be effective in quieting the room, it was pretty easy for him to do that, just with the right shout or saying something with voice level 3. Didn't he teach us like voice level 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So he would go like voice level 3 to quiet the room. And really, I mean, it's still, to me, is a miracle that he took like 14 and 15-year-olds, and our class was like a zoo, and somehow miraculously turned that into a professional level Broadway style production on stage. I don't know how he did it. I mean, I think he was a mastermind.
He really was. So let me turn this piece over to our guest. Sruli, what was your first reaction to Mr. Damron, like as a teacher in general?
So when I started off, like, I had decided like in middle school at some time that I wanted to be a film director.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started off my freshman year in high school, there was no film or anything like that, but I thought maybe I should get to know acting.
Mm-hmm.
So I took theater as one of my electives. That was sort of my intention of it. And we had these auditions for Dracula. They did this production of Dracula.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't Scott McGinnis was Dracula, right?
He was one of them. There was like 3 Dracula.
Okay.
It's like a small cast, right? So they had like a bunch of, I had been like a very uncomfortable person. My entire youth and adolescence was being just like feeling like I was very icky. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think we all do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because mine was.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah.
I felt like just uncomfortable in my own skin and icky about myself. And I remember like going through the audition process, and I ended up like reading for the part of Renfield.
Ooh.
Nice.
And it was awesome. And I made it to the final audition, and it came down to me and Archie Dan.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And Archie wiped the floor with me. He wiped the floor with me.
Well, he was older. You have to say he'd had like more experience. So
like
your defense, he was older.
He's also one of the gifted people I've ever seen.
I know, but you are too.
Thank you. He like whatever. I was, but so I ended up not getting cast, but I like that was the first moment that I tasted like the stage a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a little bit of this weird feeling about like, like I'm so insecure and I don't like myself at all. But for some reason, when I put myself on display in front of all these people,
it's really something about that, isn't it? Like you really have to have like a special kind of wiring to be able to use something that makes you so vulnerable as this wonderful, drug, really, that you just gotta hold on to.
With acting, you're becoming someone else too, so it's worth pointing out, like, it's not you, it's the character you're playing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I have to tell you, I have twin brother and sister who are much, much younger than me. And my sister is like that. Now she's got her first year of college under her belt, but she is Miss Theater. I mean, she's the most incredible performer, and she is just so unsure of herself. And I've asked her, like, why is it that you're so unsure of yourself, but you get out on stage and you're just like this unstoppable force? And that's what she always says, because I can be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Did she study with Mr. Damron, Kelly?
No, she didn't. They
Okay.
grew up in Florida. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm
We're
sure
not so
you've
much
encouraged
But
her. I bet Mr.
I
Damron's
really,
influence helped you encourage her a lot.
Absolutely.
I think that you guys
Absolutely.
asked me off. I think you guys. I really apologize. I just think that I totally went off on my first experience about me, but where Damron fell into that, and I just really want to tie. Totally, I apologize. I just wanted to say
No worry. I mean, it's something that that he brought. He brought that the fact that he was, at the end of the day, it's his call about like who was getting in, but it's also about like who wasn't going forward in the process.
Right.
The fact that you made it all the way to the finals, going up against basically a seasoned pro, as he was. But getting that far, I mean, like that already shows that that he saw something in you.
Yeah, it did, and more than anything, it made me realize that there was like this whole universe of people that their orbit was around Damron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was this whole like, there was like there's 4 grades, right? And there was like theater, all of them, and they all orbited Damron, and every show was like a major orbit.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time that I saw that like he was like a Pied Piper,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
it is. That so resonates with me because it's exactly how it was. It's exactly right.
And I think his influence will just be exponential. There's no way to really quantify it, but I think even just like you guys with your children, you might introduce them to theater much sooner than you would have had you not studied with Mr. Damron, and that will affect their lives, and then they might do the same thing. And so it's just his influence, it's beautiful. It will go on and on and on and on, and I think he lives on in his students and everything that he did.
Yeah, I mean that's he has an amazing legacy, that he's leaving behind. There's just so many wonderful people that would not have been where they were if it was not for him. And I mean, like yes, we were all in drama 1, 2, 3, together, but at the same time, like we've all gone on to kind of find ourselves afterwards. But that doesn't happen if Mr. Damron doesn't give us the tools to let us do that. And there are some people that have gone on to the stage or film as actors or actresses, but then, I've found that my true passion really is writing. Elizabeth is with painting, Kelly's is with photography. Sruli, my God, like everything that you were doing, between music, and you're still doing animation, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like the sort of work that you're doing is just, it's mind blowing. This is not only is this a great way for us to kind of like get together and share our thoughts about Mr. Damron, but at the same time, like you guys are on Excelsior Journeys yourself.
Yeah.
You
Love
guys,
it.
you guys.
It's like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
A couple years ago, they had something at Godwin for the theater department that I unfortunately wasn't able to make, but my parents actually went to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because my parents were so thankful to Mac.
Yeah.
I actually called him D. That was my term for him.
Yeah.
Oh, love it.
I just called him D. That was my true dude ever. Somehow it came to D.
Did your brother study with him? Because I remember your brother's. He was on the football team, right? And he was your brother nicknamed Chunk because he was like a beefy football player. Did he study with Mr. Damron?
Oh no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I like the.
Well, my brother also took drama for 4 years, and he actually got suspended during one of the plays.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the story real fast. My older brother, and it's funny. I don't think it's nothing I need to keep in confidence. It was a very lighthearted thing. That really, it's not controversial or anything. But it was during the taming of the shrew, and he heard someone in the audience yell, a friend of his yelling his name. And my brother thought he was backstage, sort of jokingly. It was in pure jest and humor. He made like a hand gesture to his friend, but he thought he was totally obscured. But unfortunately, he wasn't, and people saw him make kind of a rude gesture with his hand at the friend shouting his name. I think he did that just because, like, he thought you're shouting my name. It's so embarrassing or whatever. But unfortunately, the whole audience saw it, and it was not appropriate for the whole audience, and so he got in a little bit of trouble.
No.
But it worked out okay.
No.
I mean, it wasn't like too serious. It ended up being funny in the end. So, and I think for me, the main thing is just Mr. Damron's sense of humor, because I felt like our school was really pretty strict and tough, which was great in terms of preparing us for college. But at the same time, we needed a place to be able to laugh and breathe and be ourselves. Yeah. And Mr. Damron provided that. I think he probably saved a lot of kids' lives, honestly.
Yeah. He was definitely, you can definitely see the kind of on the way he was always trying to push the envelope, and it really showed in the shows that he would put on. The fact that when I was a junior and I was working on the variety show, and that was when I had written a sketch, and I had a classmate try to perform it. It wasn't working. Mr. Damron was calling it boring. And then I basically just got in front of the director and Mr. Damron and the rest of the crew behind the scenes, and I just said, no, this is how it's supposed to be. And I went ahead and performed the role just right in front of them. And they were just like, fine, you do it. And so I wound up doing it. And it was like my first time on stage in 4 years. And it felt like it was second nature as soon as I stepped on that stage. And it was just a great feeling to be able to do that. And the very next year, my senior year, the show that he chose, and this is Richmond, Virginia. This is very, conservative, kind of area. What does he show? What does he decide to put on? Greater Tuna. And Greater Tuna started
George,
out. It was originally like a show that was like it was basically kind of like almost making fun of the Ku Klux Klan, and saying that there was like one character was doing like a Klan meeting, and it was just like it was so out there. The fact that he actually, I'll just say that he had the balls to do it, and and the fact he wound up having to scale some things back. He had to because. We had to make some changes to the radio station and, take one character and say like, no, he's not in the Klan. He's doing a VFW, hall thing. And Sruli, you were right there with me on that. What was your experience doing that? 'Cause I have quite a few.
You owned that show. You were remarkable.
Thank you.
Thank you so remarkable.
And I wouldn't have done that if he didn't have the faith in me, because that was my first, you rocked the audition for Dracula, getting all the way, down as far as you did. That was your first audition for him, like a few years before that. This was my first audition for a show ever, for him.
And you got the lead part.
And I got a lead part and 2 other roles.
You had been like a dedicated theater nerd.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. I will definitely own that. Which is really funny because all the monologues and all the scenes that I was always picking, they were never from plays. They were from movies. That just seemed to be like my go-to for material. And so one of the like my final monologue that I did my junior year was from Good Morning Vietnam. And so I did like a full-on Robin Williams thing, like one moment that I will always remember in my life was I made Mr. Damron laugh during that. One moment was cracking up. And that was just like, I am taking that to my grave. There it is.
Well, I remember, speaking of like funny incidents, I remember, and I won't name names. Sruli, but I think Sruli was in the cast. This was for The Miser, so he probably remembers this. I can't remember if you and Kelly and George were in this, so just remind me if you were. But
Okay.
The Miser, like, we were having a really early rehearsal, and Mr. Damron told us to just like run lines with our basic blocking on stage. And so we were rehearsing, Mr. Damron wasn't in the room, and since it really was sort of a zoo and everyone was going bonkers, someone who will not be named decided to moon the rest of the cast across the stage. And it was just at that moment that Mr. Damron walked in. And I remember the look on his face so well. He just stopped in his tracks. And it was like right after school, he just loudly bellowed at us, "I'm going home now." And he turned around and left. I think he was just like, enough. This is just too much.
Oh,
I will have to say, I was not in The Miser.
Oh, okay. Then
So
I'm getting my
exonerate-
memories wrong.
I
But
honor at least if it was in The Miser. But
That's fantastic. It probably was Sruli, though, just a different production.
it could have been. I probably am foggy on the memory.
oh, that's
I
great.
know.
That is so
That's
great.
pretty fantastic. And you know what the best part is that this is recorded for all of us to enjoy for years to come.
Yes.
Well, that's why I'm not
Yes.
naming any names, because it's like, but
Right.
we had so many funny things, and I think we needed that desperately because so much of the focus was
yeah.
like getting the grades and taking the SATs and the standardized tests, and a lot of our classes were just rigorous and demanding and, preparing for college, and I think all of us desperately needed just a place to have some fun and laugh and be ourselves.
We
And I think
needed-
Mr. Damron knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
think just like how lucky we were to be graced with his intelligence and talent and sense of humor and warmth and sensitivity. I mean, and I honestly think if he had taken his talents and like decided to focus his career on Broadway or film, that he would have won some Tony Awards or some Oscars. Really, I just think we're so lucky that he decided, like, I'm going to focus on high school students.
Yeah. No, it's a blessing for sure. And I feel too like, ever since he passed, well, even before that, when the news came out that the theater was being dedicated to him, and then so sadly and so soon afterwards that he's passing, and, these emails and these posts and just conversation between all of us, not just those, that are here on the call, but outside of it. But I just feel like I have to say it out loud, that is as incredibly important as he was to me and the things that he meant for me personally, that same sentiment goes out to all of you as well.
Oh, that's so
I feel
sweet.
Well, you know what I mean? And here we are 25 years later, talking, laughing, excited to talk to one another, remembering.
Yeah.
And I don't know, honestly, we were talking before the podcast really began. I mean, what drama and those classes and that experience and those memories meant to me, God willing, I get to be an old lady and it'll last me a lifetime. And at the helm of all of that was Mr. Damron. And I just believe he was a godsend. And we were talking about how he was there for me personally and things that I was going through in high school. And I had some great teachers, but none like him. He was truly incredible. I mean, he was just incredible. He was 100%, no matter who or what your God looks like, he was a godsend to all of us.
I really agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
he was an angelic character.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And
not
that
and
really
not so perfect. He definitely was very human. It wasn't like he was super perfect or anything. I think he really embraced the humanity of every student and all the differences we had and all the struggles we were going through, and just in this sensitive, beautiful, funny way. It made us all feel comfortable, and I think that's one reason we have such good friendships and memories, because we really felt comfortable being ourselves. We didn't feel too self-conscious. We could open up to each other too during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
He created one of the things that was a big shock to me when I went to college and I pursued theater in college initially, and the reason why I ended up leaving theater in college was because for me, theater in high school was it's like a life preserver.
Yes.
Yeah.
And going into college, it became there's divas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Competition and probably what it's more really like in the world.
Yeah.
But I appreciated this, as cliched as it's going to sound, it provided me a family.
Yeah.
No, it's not cliche.
Yeah.
No,
And
it's not
really
cliche.
is. It really is
Truly,
something special.
it is a family. And I shared, we spoke a bit before we got started, and I don't want it to be my sob story, but it kind of is. I mean, at home, my family was crumbled. It crumbled in the most devastating way.
Oh.
And as a 16, 17-year-old kid, I mean, I was just like, what is going on? And nobody gives you the tools to deal with your parents divorcing and a nasty divorce and, all that sort of thing. And you guys, and like I said, Mr. Damron at the helm in this just beautiful, unwavering, paternal, loving way, that became that's crumbled, but I have this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think that's why I say, I mean, it's just memories and an affection for all of you and Mr. Damron that truly will last me a lifetime. I mean, it was a blessing, and not just for the friendships and the laugh, but also from an academic perspective, it was, education isn't just about grades and studying and papers and typing. Education can also be about creating.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think we had quite a sophisticated education in theater and acting and directing and talking about things like Uta Hagen, Shakespeare, absurdist theater. And honestly, if I'm around people who are like Broadway or off-Broadway or in television or filmmaking, they're surprised at my knowledge of those topics, and it's all just from my high school theater classes, and that they're surprised by what I know that I learned from high school theater. So I think Mr. Damron really, truly a great educator in terms of the content of what he exposed us to.
You really know the kind of educator you have when you feel yourself becoming a better person without really knowing it. Like it just starts to happen, and it starts to happen because of the tools that he is giving you, and that's what he did. That's what he did with me. I can safely say that with me, because as I told Elizabeth right at the beginning of our conversation, that period of time for me, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. That was for me. I always say that was a dark time for the rebellion, because we're not, I was just not right in the head. My self-worth, my self-confidence, everything was just shot. And because he had the faith in me to do what what he basically set out for me to do. The fact that my first audition for him, and he gives me 3 roles in the show, with one of them being a lead. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Giving me, when we were doing, when we did our exchange trip in the spring of 1994 with the students of Manhasset, Long Island. And Manhasset, if you're listening, hi.
Woo woo,
Yeah.
Manhasset.
Yep, it was.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful time, and it was. Not only did we all do, did we all perform the Brick and the Rose together as our big, ensemble piece, but he gave me a solo spot to do a monologue, and it was a monologue that I made him laugh, doing that monologue, and I was able to make those students laugh, and it was that sort of reaction that just it's one of those things. It's just like I'm sure that when he heard that he was getting the theater dedicated to him, it's validation. You have those moments and everything. It was just like, yes, that's what I was trying to get, and it propels you forward the rest of the way.
And that he instilled this lifelong confidence in so many young people that will just be lasting, and they'll give that to their children, and who knows, how exponential it can be. It's sort of like the idea that stars in the sky that we can see on planet Earth, some of them have died out, but we're still able to see their light reaching Earth like 400 years later. I feel like Mr. Damron exuded this light into the world, and it will live on way beyond his time here on planet Earth, just in his students and all the people he touched, through the great shows, his audiences, his students. It's just like, I think he led a great life. In my mind, he's an example of someone who just had a life well lived, even though we all wish it would be a longer life, but just this beautiful life that's going to have such an effect from now on. I just think how lucky we were, but I think what a great example of how to live life well, how to be so caring and nurturing and bring culture and community to so many people. I mean, we were so lucky to be a part of his sphere.
Yeah.
It made me one of the things that touched me the most was seeing this sort of outpouring of love for Mr. Damron, but it came from lots of generations. You know what I mean? I was at Godwin from 91 to 95. But there's I saw people from 99 to 2003. You know what I mean? There's lots of people from, and it seems like that all the way up until even recently. And it just, that's so cool to me that it was always whoever was there in the theater department with him during that time, they felt like they were the central cast of characters in his life.
Yeah.
And now, Sruli, you got into the Thespian Society, correct?
Yes.
During that time? Okay. Yes. That moment, just getting into that, talk about validation and everything. When those moments between getting selected to be in the Thespian Society, and then being up for the faculty medallion senior year, that's you definitely want to really talk about validation there, because I'll never forget the weeks leading up to that. Everyone was just like, who do you think's going to get it? And every name in my class was being thrown out there except mine. Everyone was just like, oh, it's going to be this guy because he did this and this and this, and or it's going to be her because she did this and this and this and this. They only take that senior year into account. And it was, thankfully, because that was really where I was able to do the most during my senior year. That's when the gloves came off. That's where the confidence went up, and all of a sudden, hey, I actually know what I'm doing here. And
that's when you came out of your shell your senior year.
Yeah, it felt like it. Yeah, it really did. I still remember sitting there at the senior honors assembly, and Mr. Damron stands up, and I'm waiting to hear so many different names, and like I'm not going to mention them right now, but at the same time, like they still deserved to be up there. They still deserved to be the they all did great work. But then Mr. McGinty, our principal, goes ahead and calls out my name, and I was just stunned. And I look over to my left, and there you are, Sruli, sitting at the bleachers and motioning me, just like, go up.
It's you. He called your name. He called you, George. That was your Oscars moment.
It really was. But at the same time, it's just like it's knowing that you got nominated and won at the same time. It's just like it's not like what everyone, because we are recording during Oscar night and everything. So congratulations to everyone who won. But at the same time, it's one thing to be known, to be given that that time when you are never even considered by so many people to be even nominated, and all of a sudden you get that. And so I remember just kind of almost floating up there, and I walk up to Mr. Damron, and the first thing he says is, "Take your cap off." So like, oh yeah. So I take the cap off so you can actually put the medallion around my neck. I put it on there. I said, I put the cap back on and everything, and I just said to him, "Thank you." And all he said afterwards was, "You earned it." That was my John Bender fist in the air. Simple Minds is playing in the background. Just like that was my moment. I knew you were going to get that reference.
And that stuck with you your whole life too.
And that sort of moment, it was just like, I'm gonna make something of myself here. And it's because of theater, and it's because of that man who had faith in me that I could do it. And that's something I will never, ever, ever forget.
He will be missed so much. I mean, it's hard to even imagine him not here because he was such a force. Yeah, he really was. He was a force, and just the way that the way that you described it was perfect. An angelic character. That's really what he was. He was just full of. He was a character. He was just.
Well, it's like you guys. He was very entertaining when he would get blustery.
Oh God! Yes. Oh God! Yes.
And there were people that were there specifically to push those buttons and to off to do that. Man, there's so many moments between that and the stagecraft class that I took. Yeah, he was definitely. He definitely had his moments where he was just going off.
I don't remember anything necessarily specific, but I just remember, like, overall thinking that one of the most hysterical relationships, if you will, that he had with a student that was the funniest was his with Rebecca.
Yes. Yes.
How they both would yell at each other, or there would be some kind of thing where she was yelling and he'd yell at her. I don't know. It's just hilarious.
Well, I think
Rebecca's revenge was Blythe's spirit.
Yep. Say it again.
So George, I think you had already you'd already left, right? You already left. So my senior year, we did Blythe's spirit.
Yes. Yes. Carrie Jean, Rebecca.
And Rebecca was cast as the maid.
Yes.
And it was finally the time that she got on stage, and she totally stole that whole show.
Nice.
She rocked that show so hard. It's so cool.
Oh, yeah. I have a question. Do you guys remember, I could be wrong about this, but I remember that Mr. Damron hated Annie the musical. He really didn't like it. And I remember one day, just to get on his nerves, I vaguely remember Rebecca running into the sound booth and locking the door and blasting Annie, the music from it. And he was just stop!
Stop!
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Rebecca, I so wish you could have joined us for this.
I know. I wish she could be here. Archie, everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just so
Absolutely.
many great moments. So many great,
So many.
and
So
like I
many.
remember we were talking about Greater Tuna, right? Before we started the show, and in fact, just so you know, listeners, I will be kind of going through that material that was done before the show, and I'm gonna kind of pick and choose a few moments to kind of release some bonus footage. If not with this episode, but at least for like a future episode or something. But like it definitely needs to be heard. But there was when we were doing Greater Tuna, Sruli and I were both on the show, and you might remember this too, Sruli. The last performance, that seemed to be the time when like all the technical snafus would happen. And one in particular was I just will never forget this. And it was one of those like what the hell just happened moments. And basically like the way that the show kind of wraps up, one actor, Joey Bland, Joey, if you're out there, hi.
No, I wish you were here.
Yeah. And he was doing his VFW Hall.
Joey's gone on to have an amazing career. Like I think he's like in like Second City.
Yeah.
Really?
He's like he went on to like he does like he's a serious improv guy. Like he's rocking it.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yay.
Yay, Joey. Glad to hear it.
I think he needs an Excelsior Journey podcast.
I was just saying.
Yes.
Come on the show, man. So he's doing his VFW Hall character, and he's basically just like trying to call up this meeting to order, and he's going like, "All right, come on, everybody." And the very next scene, what's supposed to happen is he does his moment, and then the spotlight goes off, and then it goes on Sruli, and Sruli is there with his dog Yippee, and he's supposed to put the dog down, but he doesn't want to at the very end, and winds up actually befriending him because earlier he was trying to put it on the radio that anyone who wants this dog come and get this dog. And all of a sudden so on our show everything else was going great. The Thursday show, the Saturday show, like everything was going just fine. Then Sunday comes around, and so Joey goes out there and just goes like, "All right, everybody, gather around." And then all of a sudden the spotlight goes off of him and then right on Sruli, and he just goes, "Listen," which is his first line. And then the spotlight goes back off of Sruli and goes back on Joey. And everyone is just like, what the hell just happened? And we know that Mr. Damron was saying the exact same thing, like yelling into the headset, what the hell just happened? Do you remember that, right? When that happened?
No.
No? I see you for all that. No, I was like, no. I swear to you this happened. I swear to you, listeners, this was a great moment.
I'm loving it. I'm reliving it.
Oh, yeah.
Reliving it. Keep going.
Oh, yeah.
Sruli, I'm curious, like, what you will share from Mr. Damron with your children.
I mean, so it hit me really hard when I heard the news.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it. Like I saw like a couple months back, like Damron posted something about going into hospice.
Yeah.
And I was like, hospice, like question mark, exclamation point, like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'll be fine, whatever. They're gonna be able to come in for the dedication. Like it's it falls out on like the Big Lebowski. I don't roll on Shabbos.
Yeah.
So like trying to figure out how I could get there to come on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And whatever. I was in touch with him a little bit. I was just really touched. He like I got a lot of really sweet messages from him, the last couple of years. Really encouraging, and whatever. I'm really bummed that I was trying to figure out, maybe I'll still try to figure out how to get there, for Saturday night, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's totally appropriate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think certainly, yeah.
But you asked me about what I told my kids. I mean, I explained to my kids, like, my kids know that I had, like, a hard time adjusting, as a young person. And I always tell them, if they feel maybe that they're not fitting in 100%, like, you'll find your tribe eventually.
Yeah.
But it was really like, that was Damron's crew. Like, that was the theater department at Godwin. That was my, that was the, I called it, like, the freaks and geeks, you know what I mean? I find it kind of play.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we really were. Yeah.
But it's funny to me to hear you guys all say that you felt like you didn't fit in, because I always felt like you all three all seemed super confident. And like before I studied with Mr. Damron, I would be so nervous to speak in public that like my knees and hands would shake, or like my voice would lock up. And then after we had experiences in his class, like I remember one of the exercises, he had us act like animals on stage. You have to act like a zebra on stage or something.
Yeah,
once you do things,
improv.
once you do things like that, you become a lot less nervous on stage. And so, but I mean, so I think he definitely helped me feel more confident as a person. Yeah. But I'm surprised to hear you guys didn't feel confident, because you all seemed really confident to me. So,
well, I'll tell you, I think perspective is incredible, right? Because I was not confident. I was a hot wreck. And I remember in drama class, I always really, Sruli, I always looked up to you. I really respected your talent. I thought you were one of the best of the best. I mean, and I'll never forget Mr. Damron. Say it again.
Oh, I just said definitely.
Oh, yeah. Truly, I really did. I respected you 100% personally, and your ability to act. And I remember we were doing some improv work in class, and Mr. Damron I don't know if you remember this. You probably won't. But Mr. Damron got you and I up on that stage in the classroom. And he just gave us this thing. I don't know, it would start with something, and then you and I had to play back and forth, and we were sitting there, and we were going through the jungle, and we were taking fire, and I totally hung with you the whole way. And I thought, well, holy shit, if I can hang with him, then I think, maybe there's a little bit more inside of me than I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do this. Now, acting is not my gift. It never was my gift, other than my incredible, glorious gentleman line in Hamlet. I was just excited to be there and to be part of the production and to be part of the logistics. And, that's where I really enjoyed the experience, was more backstage. But it was truly at times just that confidence builder, like, oh my gosh, I'm capable of more than I've given myself credit for.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was really cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Would you say that affects you as a photographer now and as a mom now?
Well,
just like that confidence?
No, not at all. I mean, it's something I've always battled. I was in photography for a while. I shared a bit of this before also, and tried to make money at it by doing weddings, which I'll still kind of come out of retirement and do a few weddings here and there for people that I know. But it's like this competitive, I'm looking at what other photographers do and comparing myself. And as a mom, I fail every day. I am a good mom. I love my girls. They're incredible, and they've taught me so much. But when it comes to my art, if you will, the photography, I've shut all that down. And I don't want to get paid to do anything. I just want to it's like getting back to that, just creating, and to do nothing else other than just to satisfy my own creative need. And you won't find a Kelly Myers photography website. You won't find a Facebook page. I've just kind of gone back to what got me into it. And that is with anything that doesn't talk back, whether that's a raindrop or a flower or something that doesn't have an opinion. I just want to create. And so that's my link to drama as well, to just be able to create. It's just this beautiful, whatever our art is, whether it's playing the harmonica or writing a book or an incredible painting or a photograph, I mean, it is, I don't want to get too corny about it. And I hate even saying corny because I don't think so. It is a connection to the divine. I mean, it's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
And Mr.
So,
Damron really showed us how to take it seriously too.
100%. Yeah. And that creating something, no matter what your art is, it matters. It really matters.
Yeah,
So,
it really is.
yeah.
And yeah, it really is something, you know, like I just consider myself so blessed to have been in that room with all of you, with the rest of the students, with Mr. Damron, you know, just, it really was one of those moments that you just, you know, you think of as like, that was a pinnacle point in my life. That's when everything took a turn and got me on the road to becoming who I am. And
I'd give anything to hear him shout at us or laugh at us again.
Oh, yeah.
that's the main thing.
I do think that I became me in his classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wish that just thinking back on it, it was just like one of those things where I can't help but beat myself up because I had, you know, like the fact that I was Facebook friends with him for so long.
Yeah.
I should have just said, come on the show. I should.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Do any of you guys remember the Harry Henderson story?
I don't remember that, and it seems like a lot of people are talking about it, and I don't think I heard it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard it either. I just remember like everything with Greater Tuna was such a blur that, you know, that I don't remember any sort of.
Well, and if he said it before, if it's something that he shared before every performance to the audience, none of us would have heard it because we were all backstage.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember that either. I mean, I don't know. It's like when I saw that, I was like, it kind of sounds familiar, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember it.
So it's definitely something, you know, like I really hope that we're able, you know, that I'm able to kind of like keep this open channel, you know, for all of, you know, like Mr. Damron's other students. You know, please, you know, all of you, please comment, please subscribe, please, you know, like, you know, share this episode, get it out there and everything, because you know, people just need to know just how, not only how much he meant to us, but I really hope that for all of the listeners that were not fortunate enough to have met him, to have worked with him, but hopefully have had that kind of connection with a teacher of their own, to remember how they make you feel, remember how they had faith in you to become who you are.
Yeah, I love that we're celebrating a teacher, an educator tonight, like the night of the Oscars, because our culture celebrates so many things like great athletes, great actors. And I think Mr. Damron, if we had like the Oscars for educators, he would definitely win Best Educator. So, you know, and we need to celebrate teachers more, I think.
Yeah.
My wife, thank God, is an educator, but she saw, like, you know, because I was really bowled over, you know, and I was crying a lot, just saying, like, you know, this is the dude who really gave me wings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the morning that news broke on Facebook, it was me and my husband. My husband's name is Chip, and my oldest daughter, her name is Emily. We were up before the two other girls were, and we were sitting on the couch, and I was scrolling, and I put my phone down, and my husband looked at me and he goes, "What's wrong?" And I was like, you know, I said, I just found out, because of course Chip has heard 100 stories about him and how much he meant to me. And I said, I just found out that, you know, Mr. Damron passed away. And Emily looks at me and goes, well, you know, I don't know. She said something like, well, hasn't it been a long time, you know, since you've seen him? And I just literally started crying.
Oh.
And I was like, you know, Emily, it could be a million years since I've seen him. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, his impact is profound. It's profound.
It really
is.
It's profound. And I have a teacher, friend of mine, and she's in a tough situation with tough kids, and she's so beat down and burnt out about it. And truthfully, I think I don't know, I feel like, listen to these stories. Like, don't let it beat you down. Like, this is such an opportunity. Like, you have such a door open to kids, and you could change their lives. Yeah. Because I'll be honest, we're sitting here talking about him, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what can I do tomorrow or right now to give back in a way that he did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring.
And that I can't think of a better way to close this episode out. All of you, Sruli, Kelly, Elizabeth, thank you all so much for being here, for being able to share your stories, to share what Mr. Damron meant to you. And because this is what you all are hearing is just the tiniest fraction of the sort of impact that he made to all of us.
I love you all. I'm so glad to talk to you, and I love Mr. Damron too. And thank you for giving us a chance to just express a little bit.
Every one of you guys.
Absolutely.
I honestly don't know where I would be if you guys weren't in my life, and I don't know where I would be if Mr. Damron wasn't in my life.
Group hug.
Yeah. I know, group hug. I agree. I love you, Mr. Damron, and I love you all tremendously.
Yeah,
thank you. Love you guys.
Yeah.
God bless. Let's all get together soon for happy occasions.
I know. Does this mean I can come? Does this mean I can come sleep on your sofa?
Yeah, come down to Florida. I think the weather's nice.
So I
all you guys are welcome.
We'll camp out in your backyard for 3 months.
So I say, there you go.
I'm teasing.
So I say this to all of you listeners. For all of you who are hearing this, my apologies if this may have sounded like, conversations were going in, all different directions. This is us. This is what, this is what we are. This is what we, and this is just a little bit of what Mr. Damron meant to us. So all I have to say to all of you listeners that never knew the man, think about the ones who have made an impact in your life and reach out to them and remind them just how much they mean to you, because there's going to be a period of time when you're not going to have that opportunity to tell them face to face, or at least on the screen, or on the phone, or whatever. And you got to take these opportunities while you can. And I just really hope that Mr. Damron knew just how much he meant to me and how much he meant to so many other people. We are, as I, if I have enough demand, then I just may follow up this with another episode, where more people can come in and tell their stories. And because he touched so many people, and I really hope that that all of you have someone in your life that means just as much to you as Mr. Damron meant to me and meant to all of us. So for Sruli Broocker, for Kelly Myers, for Elizabeth Meggs, this is George Sirois saying to all of you, ever upward, and we'll see you next week.